We'll
Okay.
get started. What we're going to do is do a short presentation. Feel free to jump in, and Dr. Gina will probably pick a few places where she wants to delve into a little bit deeper. Of course, the presentation is just an outline, so we head in a certain direction. We talk a little bit about the credibility, and then some strategies for using foundations, and then kind of what it is. That's how I've set it up. So I'm going to share my
And
screen.
Scott, as you said, we're going to get started. The family of dolphins showed up for the first time since Christmas.
Oh wow!
Oh man.
Awesome.
I haven't seen them in months.
That's I love that omen. This is all about leaving a legacy while building your business. And private family foundations are one of the most powerful strategies you can use to grow your business asset base and change the world. And it's something that Dr. Gina and I are very, very passionate about, this whole change the world while not being poor part. And there's a few people that have foundations, like Bill and Melinda, almost 50 billion in their foundation. The Musk Foundation has just under 6 billion in theirs. Mr. Templeton, who I forgot about, but when I was growing up, he was a huge influence on what I thought about money and investing. And they have 3.8 billion in assets. And I think the one thing to take away is if they were paying the taxes that the average person on the street pays, they would never have anywhere near this amount of money. So this is one of the advantages of the foundation. And what we can do is receive grants. And private family foundations have a 70 times, so 7,000% better chance of receiving grants than the average person off the street. Foundations set you apart from the average person. So when you go in and see the mayor or the governor as the founder of your foundation, that's a lot different than someone, coming off the street and saying, hey, I've got this idea, right? And it's something to keep in mind as we go through. So let's start with Google. If you have a foundation, they have a program, and that program is called Google Grants, and they will grant your foundation $10,000 per month to promote your good works. And then YouTube, which of course is part of Google, they have $1,000 to $5,000 per month grant program to do the same thing. So that's 15,000 a month, 180,000 annually. And as I was putting this together, it popped in my head. That's the equivalent of 3 mastermind members and a platinum every year, Jay.
That puts it in perspective.
Without you having to spend a penny on Facebook ads. So Dr. Gina, is there anything?
Those are just 2 of the ad grant programs that are available.
Right.
You can get ad grants on lots of other platforms on top of those 2.
Yeah. And actually, that's exactly where we're going to go. And federal grants. So the U.S. government spends over $500 billion annually on grants in aid to different state governments and local governments. The Small Business Administration gives grants to states and eligible community organizations, which would be a foundation, to promote entrepreneurship. And really, if you're a real estate investor, you're an entrepreneur, and so Jay, a lot of what you do is helping people become entrepreneurs. So it fits. And then we have state level grants. So North Carolina's Office of Finance has set aside $35 million in government grants. And we're not saying, of course, that you're going to get all of that, but it'd be nice to get a slice. And the City of Charlotte Access to Capital Small Business Recovery Grant is $30 million. And last year, and it was granted to 2,500 businesses. So this is just to give you an idea of the type of money that's out there. Not saying that you would apply for every grant or that you would get every grant, but you would have a 70 times better chance of receiving the grants than the average person. So one of the things as we go through this whole process of foundations that I emphasize personally is the secret to success from Nelson Rockefeller, which is to own nothing but control everything. And I heard it like 20 years ago, and it took me a long, long time to get a hold of that idea, which of course is the whole part of the foundation, right? You don't own anything in the foundation does. So, um, so
But
you
you
have to get
control
used
it
to that idea,
all.
but you control it all. So you can also partner with other foundations. And so many other businesses have foundations, one of which is Walmart. And Walmart's a small foundation. They only provide $1 billion in cash and in-kind giving annually. And what do they look at? They look at health and human services. And one of them is providing shelters for low income individuals and families in local service areas. So when I saw this, Jay, I immediately thought of one of your private money lenders that I spoke to when I was in uh, at the live event a couple years ago. And she said, you know, I watched Jay for years before I gave him my money. And all I saw him do was go into the poorer areas of town, fix up the house, put a nice family in the house, and improve that community. And it just really stuck with me, right? So this is what we do. The other thing that they do is improve local communities for the benefit of low income individuals and families in the local service area. So I'm thinking, the foundation does a project in an area, and you go to Walmart and you say, listen, we're redoing this house for a local needy family, a worthy family that's have some hard times, and really appreciate it if you would stock the fridge and supply some lamps and paintings and couches and whatever else they've got in the store that would fit, which is like just about everything, right? And uh, and that would save the foundation a lot of money, and you'd have really cool new stuff for that worthy family. So Home Depot is another one that I took a look at. And I was focused mainly on when I was looking around, I really was just looking around for stuff that had to do with real estate, fixing houses, and that sort of stuff. And their foundation works to improve homes and lives of US veterans, to train skilled tradespeople to fill the labor gap. So I'm thinking, huh. So Jay, I wasn't thinking of you. I was thinking of another person here when I saw this, Crystal, and the type of things that you do.
I was exactly thinking
Yeah, you
connected
popped
what
right
you
into my
said
head
right
as soon as I saw that. So since 2011, this foundation has invested more than 400 million in veteran causes and improved more than 50,000 veteran homes. So I'm just thinking, Crystal, like, this is an awesome partner for your foundation.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, and these three slides showed up at 10 minutes ago in my head, so I rushed to put them in. Imagine if every mastermind member had access to 15,000 in Google Ads each month. And then imagine if Jason had an ad program ready to roll out in each member's local area, right? I just think it would be an amazing program to roll out to the masterminds. And maybe it would be a gold mastermind instead of just a regular mastermind. I don't know. So uh, next is, so I want to talk a little bit about like very quickly about privacy. There's a lot of privacy with the foundation. Obviously, Bill and Gates Foundation has no privacy because it's got their name on it. We don't really recommend people put their name on the foundation. And what happened in Canada was really upsetting to me. And normally I wouldn't even bring it up, but we had this trucker convoy go into the capital of Canada, and Canadians supported it. Like a lot of Canadians really supported it. They would give $20 to GoFundMe, and the Canadian government not only blocked GoFundMe from giving out the money, but it went and it froze the bank accounts of people that gave $20 to support the truckers. And so I don't know, I'm not going to say that the US government would ever do anything like that. But one of the things is if you want to support some cause and you do it through the foundation as opposed to, just handing it out, through your own bank account, and then the government decides to take, issue with it, you're not going to have a problem. And so one of the things, this reminds me of something that one of the people working in the foundation, whose name escapes me, said was, the foundation has a direction, it has a goal and a mission and all that sort of stuff, but um, it's not like it's flexible, I guess, right? A lot of these big foundations, they have big projects and they're like these massive ships in the ocean, and it takes them 3 days to turn around, whereas we're kind of like the jet skis. And one of the stories he told was his daughter was going to New York as a school trip, and they sent out this letter asking every parent to donate $200 or $500, whatever it was, right? And he said to the organizer, well, what about families that don't have any money and can't afford this? And they said, well, I guess they don't go. And he said, well, I have a foundation, and I think that's wrong, and I'm going to write a check for everyone. And he just wrote out a check, and every student went to New York on the trip. So you have a lot of flexibility. And I don't know why that came up at this point, but it did. Oops, that was just got a little fast. So anyway, that was just the article saying that the Canadian government was acting like jerks. So now let's look at some real world strategies. So donations to the foundation get a 30% tax deduction. Okay, so usually in a private family foundation, that's you that does the donations. You don't have telethons or anything like that. I mean, you can. I mean, there's no reason. It's optional, right? Like a lot of these big foundations have big fundraisers to raise money. Rotary does that sort of thing all the time. This is not like that. You can of course accept donations. If someone says, "Oh, I really love what you're doing, I want to give you a donation," you're not going to say no. But the orientation of the foundation is not to solicit donations, but it's to get donations from the founders.
And let me just make a comment about that, Scott, real quick. So
Sure.
your donation can be up to 30% of your adjusted gross income. But let's say you make $100,000, you donate $30,000 of it to your foundation. That's a dollar for dollar reduction in your adjusted gross income. So you'd end up getting taxed on $70,000 because you made a charitable contribution to your own foundation of $30,000. Okay, go ahead.
Hey, can you say that again, Gina?
So what you contribute to your foundation is a dollar for dollar reduction of your adjusted gross income on your tax return. An individual can donate up to 30% of their adjusted gross income annually. So if you make $100,000, you can donate up to $30,000 to your foundation, which reduces your AGI to $70,000. It's a dollar for dollar reduction in your taxable net income.
I got it. Thank you.
So is that another way of just saying that the 30,000 is not taxed?
Well, it's not taxed. It's not that it's not taxed. It's literally donated to charity and therefore gives you an equal deduction. You just can't go over 30% of your adjusted gross income.
Right.
Hey, Scott, Gina, just real quick, is this I think you guys said this is a trust. Is it a 503c corporation or is it just a trust?
It is. It's a
Okay.
charitable trust. When we set up the EIN number for it, we go after 501c3 designation. Instead of using a corporation to get a charity started, it uses a trust.
And again, what are those numbers? Blank, blank, blank charitable trust.
It's just a charitable trust.
It's a
Oh, okay.
501.
I thought it had a
Oh,
number.
501c3. 501c3.
Charitable trust.
Mm-hmm.
Got you. Okay, thank you.
So you can also donate physical assets up to 30% of your AGI to the foundation. So it doesn't necessarily have to just be cash.
So can I ask a question real quick?
Sure.
So, so let's say that for easy figure and using Gina's numbers, let's say someone's adjusted gross, I mean their gross income, their taxable gross income is $100,000 for a
Yeah,
given year. And as you said, you can donate up to 30%. You can donate up to $30,000 in that scenario. So here's my question. Let's say that Jay Connor has a cause over here, whatever that cause is. And I just really love that cause. And I want to give to that cause. Is there a benefit to giving the $30,000 to my foundation over giving $30,000 to the cause I love?
absolutely. You give the 30,000 to your foundation. Your foundation then gives it to the cause you love.
And the benefit of that is,
You're running it through your foundation. So now your foundation has good work it's done that it can go out and talk about, which will make it that much easier to get grants from other places into your foundation, including those advertising grants.
so the bottom line is, in your opinion, Gina, any charitable contributions that a person has been giving, either through their either from their corporation or from themselves personally, if the foundation is established, all donations should come from the foundation
Yes,
because of the reasons you just said,
yes,
which helps you get more grant money some kind of way.
right.
Got it.
So
Okay.
that way you've got that much more you can do good work with that didn't even have to initiate from your own income.
Got you. Okay. Thank you.
I actually have two questions really quick.
Ahead.
Go ahead.
Be pretty easy, I think, to answer. Is there any limit to the 30% of the adjusted gross that you can donate? So if I make $3 million, can I still, donate if that was my prerogative, 30% of that?
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, this is why I'm in the trust business. I don't just offer a charitable trust. I also have what is called a personal trust and another that's called a business trust. And that's a little beyond the scope of what we wanted to talk about today. But the reason I bring it up, if you were to take your current business and operate it through a business trust and a personal trust can donate up to 100% of its AGI and get a dollar for dollar deduction. So if you make $3 million on your 1040 return, you can donate up to $1 million of it. If instead you make that $3 million through a business trust, you can donate up to all $3 million and get a $0 tax liability because of the donation to your nonprofit. I call the combination of those three trusts, the personal trust, the business trust, and the charitable trust as a foundation, the trifecta package. Because boy, oh boy, it's like winning the trifecta.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. That's pretty crazy. I didn't know that. Other question is, as far as the physical assets that you could donate up to 30%, can you give me an example of like what types of assets they would be and, like how that would work?
Yeah, you got
The
a little bit ahead of
biggest,
us. But
the
yeah,
biggest is real estate, but it can be any asset. So charitable giving of real estate is a big deal. So Jay goes out and gets homes that are in foreclosure, right? Well, Jay could go out to someone who has, let's say, a property that has an FMV of $1 million. Their basis in it is $200,000. If they sell that house at $1 million, they're looking at an $800,000 capital gain. What if instead of selling the house, having the $800,000 in capital gains, they gifted that house to Jay's foundation. They now have a tax write-off. And if it exceeds their AGI, you have a carry forward of up to 5 years. So let's say they make $3 million a year, they're okay because that $1 million FMV is 30%. But what if they only make $1 million a year? They're only going to be able to donate $300,000 and take tax exemption for it, right? But they can carry over the other $700,000 up to $300,000 a year for 5 years. So over a 5-year period, they've got this beautiful tax write-off. And people are donating houses with large capital gains all over the country just to eliminate the capital gain issue.
Interesting. Yeah, no, this is, kind of opening my eyes. I wasn't familiar with this, but it seems like just a heck of a tax shelter for sure.
Oh, and it gets even better than this. Wait till you see. Keep going, Scott.
Okay. All right. So here's a quick look at kind of how the money flows. So basically, you have your cash donation to the family foundation, the tax deduction 30%. I should have removed that 50%. And if you had, say, a house and you took that long-term asset and donated it to the foundation, you would get that tax deduction of 30%. And as Gina said, they can be carried forward 5 years.
Hey, Scott, can I interrupt real quick?
Sure.
I want to go back to what Gina just explained, that I want to. So here's my question. So, Gina, this is back to the scenario of donating a house to the foundation. So,
Yeah.
in my course of business, unfortunately, I was tagged as a dealer years ago. So it don't matter if I buy and sell a house in 3 months or I buy and sell a house and I keep it for 3 years. I'm still paying, ordinary income. But anyway,
I can fix that, right?
Probably. So anyway, here's my question. So let's say I got a house. Okay. Let's take a case in point. I got a house over here on Country Club Road. I bought this house this last fall for $170,000. I just put $30,000 in it. I'm all in for $200,000. I'm now in the process of marketing it for $350,000. So here's real numbers. So I'm wanting to flip this house. I don't want to keep it. I want to sell it. Is there a way to use the foundation to save taxes of buying that house and selling the house just the way I've been ordinarily doing it?
So you can make a donation to your charitable organization and donate that house to the foundation. You're going to get a reduction on your income up to 30% of whatever your AGI is. So let's say your AGI is $2 million. Well, you're going to get up to a $600,000 reduction, right? You can donate up to $600,000. So you donate it to the foundation. It reduces it by $350,000 on your taxable net income, and now your foundation sells that to someone else at the $350,000, and that's tax exempt completely at that point. So you have no gain to pay taxes on.
Okay, so I think you just answered another one of my questions. My question was going to be, do you donate the house to the foundation at the point of purchase or at the point of after you have fixed it up and now you have an after repaired value that's, $180,000 more than you bought it for?
So I would do it after the repairs when the fair market value has increased.
Because that gives you more of a write-off.
You got it.
So let me just catch up. I donate this house of $350,000 to my foundation. That gives me a $350,000 write-off. given that doesn't exceed 30% of my adjusted gross.
Correct.
And then the foundation sells the house to whoever end user for 350,000. So where do taxes come in for the foundation? Like,
Good question.
if the foundation like brought it, well, let me just let you answer that. Like, if the foundation took a donation of a house worth 350,000, and then the foundation sells it for 350, there's no profit.
Right.
To the foundation.
Hmm.
So there's no taxes.
Even if there was a profit, it is a tax exempt organization. So unless you are doing a whole lot of gains, and I don't have the exact number in front of me, there is an investment tax that the foundation would pay if it's exceeding a certain amount. So in a foundation that's set up in this way, you must use 5% of the funds endowed. So if you've got $1 million in cash and assets, you got to use 5% of that for doing good work each year. It's not that big of a deal, right? If you don't use that 5%, let's say you only used 3% of the assets in the foundation, then there is a tax on the other 2% that you were supposed to have used but didn't. But what counts as doing good work is what's going to blow your mind. So let's say you donate your primary residence to your foundation. You get the write-off on your 1040 return for having done so. You are a trustee in your foundation, and you have a little meeting with the family and together decide the foundation is going to require its trustee to live in this property. Well, that's now a fringe benefit to you that has no taxable income to you. And it becomes part of that 5% that the trust has to spend each year as a foundation. So any expenses associated with your primary residence now become an expense to the foundation instead of to you, whether that's the lawn being mowed, a new roof, anything associated with it. And that counts towards that 5%. You can also take your family on a family retreat up to once a quarter, which simply means you're going on vacation 4 times a year and the foundation is paying for it. If at dinner you and Carol Joy talk about the good works your foundation is going to do, you can cover your food as an expense through the foundation. The foundation can buy life insurance on its trustees. That's also part of that 5% expenditure rule. So there are taxes if you don't do the 5% expenditure, or if your investments exceed a certain percentage of assets under management in the foundation. But it's really hard to get you to a point that it's getting taxed.
So let's say the foundation, let's say I was not taking advantage of some of those examples you just gave. Let's say I was not writing off the cutting of the grass, like I donated my house, and I'm not going on a family retreat once a quarter. Let's say I didn't take advantage of any of that stuff. I mean, just for conversation, just for conversation purposes. So back to the house I bought for 170 and put a 30 in it, and now I'm selling it for 350. I donate the house to the foundation for 350. I sell it for 350, and the foundation hypothetically does no good works. But it's got to do a minimum of 5%. So it got a donation of $350,000. Does that mean that 5%, and let's say that's the only donation it got, does that mean that that foundation has got to, in some way, pay out some kind of way 5% of that 350, or $17,000? for that year.
Correct. Correct. But that
Got
could
it.
be a tithe to your church, Jay.
Oh, right. Like, you know, the money we give our church, instead of giving the money to the church, we're giving the foundations giving the money.
Yep. That's
Okay.
exactly what that means. It has to do 5%.
Okay, got it. All right. Thank you for allowing me to interrupt.
So part of what this is all about is leaving a legacy, whether it's for your children and your grandchildren and your great 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 grandchildren, or if it is for like the Jay's church, right? We want to make sure it continues. So the foundation has the ability to name successors. So it never dies, and based on how you set it up, it can continue for generations. So it's not just, you know, the next year it's going to do good works, but 100 years from now it could be continuing to do good work and doing the work that you wanted done in the world. So I want to talk a little bit about, you know, just exactly what it is. And it's an independent legal entity set up solely for charitable purposes, and it's a specific type of trust. It eliminates capital gains taxes. It has no income tax. It's tax exempt. It actually has no sales tax. And it adds to the tax benefits that you could get if you had a trust tied with it. And Bill Gates is a great example because in 2000, he and Melinda made the bill, created or had created the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation Trust. And surprisingly, coincidentally, 3 years later, Microsoft has an extraordinary dividend. They at that time they had more cash than the Queen of England and the chief guy in Saudi Arabia put together, and a lot of pressure was coming for them to have a dividend. So when they had the dividend, Bill, being the wonderful charitable person that he is, pledged his entire dividend to the foundation so that they could go out and do good works. His dividend was $3 billion. So he paid no income tax on that. And his foundation was off to a roaring start. And now, 20 years later, it's worth 50 million, so billion, right? So that's one of the benefits of the foundation in terms of taxation. You know, you're not paying 20 to 50% in taxes. And Gina had already mentioned this. Family retreats are an important activity for the success of foundations. And the reason for it is, I don't know about your family, but my parents have never, ever told me anything about their financial situation. I have no idea if they're rich or they're poor. And of course, what happens is when my dad passed away, well, he looked after a lot of stuff, but I know when my mom passes away, it's going to be a mess because we have no idea what she would like the money to be used for. We have no idea how much money there is or where it is or all the rest of it, right? So the family retreats are wonderful because it forces you to take, whether it's your children in Crystal's case and Chaffee's case, or if it's, let's just say, the church, you know, David Price, you go away and you talk about, you know, what you want to accomplish with the foundation and what you want to do and how it all works. So as Crystal's children grow up, and you can't do it at home because there's too many distractions. Oh, Dad, I want to play with my friends, that sort of thing. But you go away, you have this nice time together, you build strong bonds, and people have an understanding of what the foundation is like. And as the children grow, they may decide, you know what, Mom, like, you know, all the veterans have houses and they're all fine. Like, we need to focus on something else, whatever it is that they think of. And so that change occurs gradually, gently, and effectively, as opposed to, I'm now in charge, Mom. You've made me the trustee, and I'm going to do this, and you might be disagreeing with it or whatever, right? So it's a way to have continuity so that the good works continue on and on and on. And it's very, very important. So I wanted to talk about some of the do's and don'ts of when you have a private family foundation. So the do's is you receive donations from yourself and other sources. You manage the assets. You spend 5% on the foundation's goals, and you make sure all the filing requirements are done. And the don'ts are you don't steal, no self-dealing. It's very, very easy to say, I've got this card and I want to do this, and I feel like having a Big Mac, and you take it, and all of a sudden you're breaking the rules, and your foundation could collapse. So you don't want to steal from your foundation. You want no bad investments. So when you have 3 billion in your foundation, and I come and tell you about a bridge in Brooklyn, like, sorry, Scott, that qualifies as a bad investment, and see you. No politics. You may like the president, you may dislike the president, doesn't matter. The family foundation is not a political entity. And no active ownership, which means you can't have like a shop or a restaurant in the foundation. The income is passive. And setting up is, I was going to say very difficult, but you might not realize I was being sarcastic. We have a bunch of documents that you fill out. You assign the roles of the foundation. You get an EIN number. You open the bank account, and you follow the rules. It comes with a trust advisor or a foundation advisor to help you with all of these things. We know there's a learning process. We have training on the foundation and trusts twice a week. And then we're doing an 8-week foundation training now. So all that training would be
12
available
weeks.
to you. 12
12
week. I forgot it expanded. And, so there's lots of support, because here's the thing is you have to think about things differently. You have to, kind of work through the process and everything else. And we want to make sure that it's successful. So it's not going to be like, here's your paperwork, fill it out and see you, Tuesday at the meeting that we have every week, our marketing meeting. We work very closely to make sure that everything you need to know, and any questions you have, we work to make sure that we get the answers for you.
Just real quick, Andrew,
Yes, sir.
you had a similar type thing established a year or two ago. Just real quick before Darren's got to jump, what's been your experience? I know you told me this morning you're still getting, from whenever you set it up, $360 a day in grant money for Google Ads, whether you spend it or not. What's your experience been so far in summary?
Yeah. So I set it up about a year ago now, and every single morning it's loaded with $320, and regardless of whether I spend 300 of it or all of it or $2 of it, it's reloaded the next morning with a total of 320. So no rollovers, and I'm still getting it. The attorney who set it up for me told me I could expect to have it for at least 10 years and likely for life.
Wow. That's
That's
crazy.
wonderful.
Awesome.
Yeah, so and the attorney that did it for me set up a non-profit, so it was super easy, and basically had to share a couple of articles I had written for the website, and then Aaron actually and I had those articles put on the website. We wrote them for some various magazines over the years, and so it took us probably 20-30 minutes of time total getting that website set up so that Google would approve it. Quick little side note, not-for-profit is actually set up in Canada because the IRS has taken about 9 to 12 months to approve. In Canada, it takes about 2 to 3 weeks.
Nice. All right,
And
guys.
it's,
So
of
it
course,
does not take
Thank you
that.
for that. I
It
gotta
does
jump
not
off.
take that for our
See you,
clients.
Darren.
Thank you so much, Darren.
Bye,
Hi,
guys.
Darren.
What'd you say, Gina?
It does not take 9 to 12 months for our clients to get their determination letter approving them as a nonprofit. We work with another organization. The head of it, his name is Rick, is actually on retainer to the IRS to help the IRS come up with the rules for foundations to follow. And when the IRS has questions, they call Rick. So because of the relationship between Rick and the IRS, our clients are 501c3 charitable organizations the day we set up their EIN number. They do have to apply for a determination letter, but that's a rubber stamp. And typically our clients are seeing them in 3 to 4 months. I have a client recently that got it in less than 30 days. But you don't have to wait for the determination letter to actually start acting as a charitable organization. You can do that the day we get the EIN.
Gotcha. One thing that comes to mind is I've had the same CPA doing my taxes for 20 years. And obviously she's got to be on board because she does my taxes. And
She'll understand this, Jay. If she's a CPA, she understands taxation of charitable organizations.
right. So it's like, you know, it's like one thing that's going through my mind is, okay, who's gonna like keep up with this stuff? Well, it ain't gonna be me. So, you
It
know,
would be your CPA. She's going to keep the books for the foundation the same way she keeps them for your business now. The other thing I wanted to mention for you specifically, this 12-week course that I'm teaching right now. I'm teaching it with Rick, the gentleman that I mentioned a little while ago, and a good friend of mine by the name of Sherry Watson. Sherry happens to be one of the two individuals that got the Americans with Disabilities Act passed through Congress 30 plus years ago. Since then, she's been working specifically with for-profit business owners to help them grow their foundations as a leverage tool for building their for-profit businesses. Her client list reads like a who's who in corporate America. Warren Buffett, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, you name it. A lot of the big rock groups from the 70s and 80s, they're all clients of Sherry's. She's helping to teach this class as well. The class is all about using your foundation as a leveraging tool for your for-profit business. So what does that really mean and how does that work for you? Well, Scott touched on a couple of ideas in the presentation, but you can do things like, let's say you've got a church member who's a single mom. She really wants to get her kids into a house. You really want to help her. You don't want to have to take it out of your pocket. Your foundation can give a grant for, say, a down payment or furnishing a house, or even a grant to your for-profit business to pay for the house. And you do it as a joint venture. In the joint venture agreement, you agree that if the property ever is sold to a third party, they're going to repay that to the foundation with interest. But in the meantime, your for-profit business doesn't suffer because it got money from your foundation to cover the cost of the house for this single mom and her kids. That's just one example. Another example is an actual real world story from a client. They had just bought an assisted living facility when I was telling them about the power of foundations. What their vision had been is they're going to rehab this assisted living facility, cost them about $1 million, and they were doing it specifically to turn it into an assisted living facility for veterans. So we set up the foundation. The foundation went and got a grant for $1 million from the government to help veterans with housing, and then turned around and gave $1 million grant to their for-profit business so that they could rehab this property with no money out of their own pocket at all. The foundation helped them do it. So there's loads of ways of using your foundation as a tool to grow the for-profit business, but still get the tax write-off on your personal tax return or your company's tax return. It's just a matter of thinking about it a little differently than what you've done in the past. And the sky's the limit with that. There are so many different ways of using your foundation to grow your for-profit business. It's just joint ventures between your for-profit and your nonprofit. And that's what I've been teaching for 20 plus years.
Gotcha. Well, you've given me a lot to digest.
Well, as you talk to Carol Joy about it and thoughts start running through your head, when questions come up, don't wait to ask me the next time you talk to me. Just text me.
Yeah, he got last year when he got his attorney to do it. Um, yeah, he got all approved in like I think he said 2 or 3 weeks. And
Yeah, but he did it in Canada, not in the US.
right, right.
Well, the day that the wire hits the account is the day I get the EIN number, and within 24 hours, you're operating under your foundation. So you don't have to wait at all.
Right.
But the other thing you and I should talk about, Jay, is the whole trifecta package, the business trust and the personal trust. I didn't realize that you'd been tagged with dealer status years ago.
Mm-hmm.
The business trust does not ever, ever get tagged as a dealer. A trust cannot be a dealer. It's straight out of the Internal Revenue Code.
Mm-hmm.
So you could do a whole lot better on the bottom line because you would be able to get rid of most taxes if we set up a business and personal trust for you.
Right.
On top of which, all of your coaching income, all of the info product income, the membership site income, that's all considered intellectual property income. Well, back in the mid-90s, the IRS issued a private letter ruling stating that intellectual property income is passive income for tax purposes. The reason that's significant when you have one of the trusts, the business trust and the personal trust set up, is we have a version of our business and personal trust package that's an intellectual property / business trust. And it takes all intellectual property income and makes it 100% tax deferred in perpetuity. So imagine getting the tax liability to zero on your coaching side of your business. Imagine reducing the tax liability on the real estate side of your business to not more than around 10% of what you're paying out now in taxes on it. And with the foundation, if we took that and donated it to the foundation, that could get your annual tax liability darn near zero. So how many more properties could you buy every year without paying money to Uncle Sam?
Very interesting. Well,
So,
I'm sure I'll have a list of questions. I've got a hard stop in 3 minutes. Chaffee, have you got
I do
anything
too.
else?
Yeah, just real quick, Gina, the package includes, what'd you say again? The charitable organization, EIN, deferment, 1-year tax returns? Is that it, or did I
First year
miss something?
tax returns, a foundation advisor, and access to the 12-week course, both live and recorded, and bi-weekly Q&A calls.
So after the first year, if we wanted to continue working with the foundation advisor or tax return guy, that's possible?
Great
Or-
question. Yeah, absolutely.
And
Anything else, Chaffee?
you only buy the foundation once. It's not like you have to pay a renewal
Correct.
fee.
No renewal or anything. And if you don't want the support, you don't have to pay for the support package. For you guys, I'd let you come to all the group calls. I just wouldn't have a foundation advisor for you.
Anything else,
Okay.
Chaffee?
No, that's it. Thanks, Gina.
Yeah, Crystal?
Mm-hmm.
I'm good. Just drumming up the questions in my mind.
Very good.
Awesome.
All right. Well, Scott, anything else on parting comments?
If you're interested in knowing more about the trusts, we have a presentation on the business and IP trust, so we can go through but I didn't want to do any of that because this was enough information for one day.
Trust me, this is
Yeah, I
enough
totally
for
agree.
one day.
Totally agree. Well, I hope we blew your mind, Jay, because
I mean, just the Google ad piece has been very beneficial for Andrew. I mean, he's
Yeah.
got
yeah,
he wakes up every morning and he's got $320 in Google ad spend to spend, and it's use it or lose it. You either spend it and you don't spend it. Well, you just lost $320 that you could have spent, but there's another $320 the next morning, and
yeah.
so he's proof that if nothing else, the Google ad piece is working.
Well, and you can use the ads in whatever way you want. So whether you're using it to help your real estate side of your business, whether you're using it to help the coaching side of your business, whichever one suits you, or a combination thereof.
Jason would be happy to have $300 a day to play with, I'm sure.
I'm